to parse the most crucial moments of the day. And Carol, it's been quite a few. The vibe's really off. I don't know if it's because of the economic data, if it's because of the tariff discussions, or maybe just everything in between.
I would say yes, yes, and yes. And I think what's really interesting, yes, obviously what we're seeing in the equity trade, but you look at what's going on with the U.S. Treasury curve. I mean, to see what 393 on the 2-year note, lower on the 10-year, just all along the curve, Scarlet. We were just talking with our Enda Curran, who watches the global economy. And, slowly we're starting to hear maybe more people talk or say the R word, recession. Maybe he said not there yet. But just interesting to see kind of a change in tone today.
Yeah, maybe the ISM manufacturing number that came out this morning kind of gave us a hint of what was to come, right? Employment and new orders contracting, and the growth in manufacturing slowing down, almost stalling. That kind of looks like stagflation.
Look what's happening to semiconductors today. On a day when we hear this announcement from TSMC and President Trump, you got NVIDIA down 8.7%, you got Broadcom down 6.3%, the stocks as a whole down 4%.
But to be fair, we also had the chips down, particularly NVIDIA, earlier, unrelated to any of this, as you have certain entities looking into the fact whether Supermicro, for example, had NVIDIA chips, and that made its way into China. So there was already something separate that was weighing down on that chip sector.
Yeah, absolutely here. But again, no real sector spared today. A few bright spots out there, but they are middling to be sure. The good news is we are off the lows of the day by a big amount. The bad news, all of those gains that we saw in that dip buying rally on Friday have effectively been erased. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lower by more than 600 points, or 1.5% on the day. The S&P lower by about 100 points, or 1.8%. The Nasdaq Composite down 2.6% on the day. The Nasdaq 100 down 2.2%. But here's your big laggard. You're going to find that in the small and mid-cap space. S&P 400 mid-caps down 2.2%, and the Russell 2000, the small caps, down 2.8%.
Yep, going back to the big caps, if I may. And you're right, we are definitely off our lows, Romaine, of the session. It was looking a little bit more dire about 15, 20 minutes ago. Having said that, look inside the S&P 500, 335 names to the downside, Scarlet, 166 to the upside.
All right, let's take a look at the IMAP, which looks at the S&P 500 based on the 11 industry groups. And no surprise here, tech, the leading decliner, off by 3.5%, matched only by energy, also down 3.5%. Consumer discretionary, which includes Tesla and Amazon, down by about 2.3%. The outperformers here are the little slices of green that you see there: REITs, staples, healthcare, utilities, classic defensive sectors.
All right. And so I thought I had 3 gainers, but it turns out now I only have 2 gainers.
That's what happens on a day like today. Wow. You know?
All right, let's go to Capri Holdings. That one, first of all, certainly has been an outperformer in today's session. It's up about just shy of 4%. It was up as much as 9% earlier in the session, but finishing the day with about a 3.9% gain. This is said, as Prada is said to be moving closer to a deal to buy Capri's Italian luxe brand. You may know it as Versace, after agreeing to a price of nearly $1.6 billion. So,
what's it called?
Versace.
Oh.
Versace? Did I say it wrong? Versace?
I'm American. I say Versace.
Me too.
Versace.
That's okay. Carol's fancy.
All right. Versace. All right. Let's go to Allegro. I knew, as soon as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, didn't come out right. Allegro Microsystems. Let's hopefully get that one better. Up as much as 22% today, finishing with a gain of about 15%. It's a semi-manufacturing device company said to be drawing takeover interest from larger competitor on semiconductor, according to folks in the know. And it might be that some companies are interested in bulking up their automotive capabilities by looking to buy this company. But that was definitely an outperformer. And then Palantir, well, I don't have to do it because it actually turned into the red.
All right. Well, I'll add another honorable mention here.
Thank
this
you.
is in the after-hours trade. Okta shares up about 8% here after fourth quarter EPS came in slightly above street estimates, 78 cents a share. The street was looking for 74. Revenue also came in slightly above street estimates at $682 million. Here's your forecast for the full year, fiscal 2026. The company sees adjusted EPS in the range of $3.15 to $3.20 a share. The street, on average, was looking for $2.92, so even the low end of that range, well above what the street was looking for. A similar story when it comes to their revenue guidance, $2.85 billion to $2.86 billion. Street was looking for 2.8 even.
All right, a bright spot. We'll see if it holds for tomorrow's session and certainly after the call. I do want to get to some of the laggards in today's session, starting with shares of NVIDIA falling 8.8%. It's the worst performer in the Mag 7 today, the biggest drag too on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 by a long shot. Alex mentioned this. Singapore investigating whether Dell and Supermicro servers shipped to Malaysia contained NVIDIA chips barred from China, highlighting the role of middlemen in funneling high-end semiconductors. The risk-off sentiment that developed throughout the session today, not helping NVIDIA at all either. It's actually at its lowest level going all the way back to September and down just about 25% roughly from those highs back in January. And Sonova Energy falling today by 64%. It's the solar energy company. Shares tanked after they said there's substantial doubt regarding its ability to continue as a going concern for a period of at least 1 year from the date that it issues its consolidated financial statements. The company also removed its guidance, according to a presentation. And ADRs of TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, down today by 4%. Just keep an eye on those shares after the company announced that it plans to invest an additional $100 billion in U.S. plans to boost chip output on American soil and support President Trump's goal of increasing domestic manufacturing.
All right, where do you go in a market like this? You go to the safety of the bond market, bid all across the curve. Taking a look at that back end, the 10-year yield falling to 4.16%, a really strong move here. Ira Jersey of Bloomberg Intelligence, he heads up U.S. strategy there, says that 413 is a pivotal point that could shake out a lot of other investors. So if you break that level, maybe a lot more buying to come. So just kind of watch that space. But overall, you have to see, guys, I have to say, wouldn't you have expected the bond market to be down like 10 basis points, 12 basis points on this?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting, too. I mean, you did see a little bit of a bid come into other safe haven assets,
True.
but it gets to this idea here of where is there to hide right now, because at the same time, you talk about the safety of bonds, Alex, but you're still dealing with other issues that could actually affect the valuation of that, such as our budget issues and other things that aren't directly related to trade or tariffs. So it does kind of become, I don't know what the euphemism is, whack-a-mole or whatever, where you're sort of looking for somewhere to hide, and then you pop up and realize that, oh, here's another policy thing that's going to just cut us at the knees.
Until today, people might have said crypto as of yesterday with that announcement of the strategic crypto reserve coming from the president. But there's a lot of skepticism and questions around what that actually looks like.
Did Tim just ignore my quip?
No. I didn't hear what it said. Romaine, I would never ignore you. Please repeat it.
Another area of safe haven has been European stocks. The stock 600 closing at a record high, up 2%. You also see European defense companies. They've been on a rally all month, and that continues because now you have London and Paris talking up about increasing their military spending. The Swedish krona in particular has proven to be a safe haven as well. Big moves on that currency because that country's defense industry is seen benefiting from more spending.
Yeah, not about U.S. exceptionalism, but maybe European exceptionalism, at least at this point. Hey, I will say one other place to hide was gold today. It was up about 1.9%. So, certainly a safe haven play, or if you're worried about what's going on in terms of the economy or inflation, I don't know if that's the case today based on the economic data, but nonetheless, you did see some movement into that.
GitLab, those prices, that company is out with earnings and application software company. Just taking a look here real quick. Revenue actually beats estimates for the fourth quarter. Taking a look at its fiscal year, though, for 2026, their revenue could come in anywhere from $936 million to $942 million. That's missing estimates. Also taking a look at adjusted earnings per share. On the high end, they see 72 cents. The estimate was for 82 cents for the year.
Yeah, I do want to go back to also just kind of the tariff threat, if you will, the idea that all this is going to come down the pipe. Trump, of course, in that statement with standing alongside the TSMC CEO, which was ostensibly about investment here in America, basically saying that the time for negotiation is over. Now we're getting word from Canada, a story crossing the wire saying they've already prepared a sweeping package of counter tariffs. And that's a big part of this. We kind of forget it's not just about the tariffs we impose and what that means for the folks trying to import goods, but also the retaliatory tariffs and how that affects the companies that are making stuff here, but of course want to export them across the border or across the world.
We had an interesting chat with Keith Naughton specifically about autos and the way that auto prices could be affected. Some analysts saying that some auto prices could go up by $10,000, $12,000 per vehicle. And Keith kept mentioning the idea that these would be temporary tariffs. And that's how the automakers are thinking about it, because there is this off-ramp when it comes to border security that the president has given for Mexico and for Canada that doesn't necessarily exist with tariffs on China.
All right. We could certainly go on and on, but I'm sure we're going to have some of the similar conversation tomorrow. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We will see you again. I know, Alix, you're heading out. Scarlett's continuing with Romaine on TV, and Tim and I continuing right here on Business Week on Bloomberg Radio.